Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this rare opportunity, and we pray that this discussion is going to lead to a number of breakthroughs as far as Islamic finance and economic growth and development in Arewa is concerned. As we all know, and as we have seen from the keynote presentation, Islamic finance has a number of potential and a number of value propositions which we can use to actually leverage to promote growth and development in this region that is bedeviled with a number of socio-economic challenges, poverty, deficit of infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And as we know, Islamic finance is growing globally, and it is being explored by different parts of the world to ensure growth and development. One interesting thing is that Islamic finance as at 2022 has a value of about 4.5 billion US dollars, and it is projected to be 6.67 trillion US dollars by 2027. Where are we as far as taking advantage of Islamic finance is concerned here in Arewa, with our problem of al-Majiri, with our problem of poverty, with our problem of insecurity, with our problems of this and that? And I think that is what we're going to discuss in this very important, in this panel discussion. We still expect the arrival of Dr. Usman Bugaje. He's on his way. And Dr. Usman Bugaje, as we know, is a development scholar, of course, and he's a renowned international scholar who initiated a number of projects for the development of Arewa. One of the most important recent projects pioneered and championed by Dr. Usman Bugaje, where they conducted a number of researches about the potentials for development in Arewa, and including, of course, the challenges. And they developed the proposal, the STAN document, Strategic Agenda for Northern Development. When Bugaje comes, we will want to hear that from him. We also have in the panel Professor Shehu Usman Aliyu Rano, a scholar of economics, a professor of economics, who has over 70 publications to his credit in local and international reputable journals. And very relevant to this discussion is the fact that he is the pioneer director of the International Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance. We also have Dr. Abdullateef Bello on the panel, and Dr. Abdullateef Bello is a man of so many credits, being a statistician with a PhD from Oxford, and being, with the Islamic Development Bank for 25 solid years, and attaining various positions and getting a number of awards, and IDB Award for Excellence in Performance, and having also authored something very important of interest for us, the role of Islamic finance in achieving sustainable development. In IDB, he was everything for us, and he has a lot of experience that we're going to learn from. Now let's start with Professor Shehu Usman Aliyu Rano. Prof. Rano, you are a scholar of economics and a scholar of financial economics, and also, interestingly, you have interest in development economics also and Islamic finance. We are in Arewa, and we would like to know what is in Islamic finance for us as far as the growth and development of Arewa is concerned.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. It is my great pleasure to be in this important event organized by the IFI media, today being the 27th of November, in this Asian city of Kano, and with all that the big shots in Islamic finance, not only in Arewa, but also in Nigeria at large, and those that have attained global recognition and have made impact on in terms of their contributions to Islamic finance. For Arewa and what it can tap from Islamic finance, there are enormous opportunities really for us, given the enormous challenges that have been bedeviling the northern region. In his opening remark, Arewa is the seat of poverty. He has said that in the welcome address by the Emir of Kano. Dr. Muhammad Sunusi has also noticed that poverty is in the north, lack of capital is in the north, and unemployment is in the north. Not that we are lacking in terms of the resources that are needed to transform the north. We have the youth, we have the land, we have the homogeneity in terms of culture, in terms of religion, in terms of closeness, in terms of historical antecedents, that we are all one together. Whoever talks about Arewa will remember Sardauna, Ahmadu Bello, his own, the first pioneer champion of the North. In fact, he who gave the acronym of Arewa, and that identity that we are Arewas, or we are Arewians, is it Arewa or Arewas? So whatever it is, we have had history of success and economic emergence and economic strength, although we are lacking in education in the post-colonial era, but that when they stood together, they have projected north, not only within Nigeria, not only within Africa by creating maybe cooperation, collaborations, but it even extended to the Middle East. So, but now we are in this state. If you are talking, I was just reading the statistics yesterday, the top 10 poverty-stricken states in Nigeria are in the northern, northwestern, and northeastern, for things that were enforced on us, for insecurity, for unemployment, for the almajiris that were imposed on us. You are talking of unemployment, you are talking of structural imbalances. We have the resources, but we transform them. When we are accusing the Europeans of pushing us to produce cash crops, now we are taking our live animals, our food crops, unprocessed. We are adding value, as the debate is raging on value-added tax. And we are just shipping them and transporting them, exporting them to all the dangers, to where value is created, to where value is domesticated, and to where returns and better values are created, while we are here maybe living in poverty. So the role of Islamic finance, we are not in classroom to say that Islamic finance is an ethical finance. Allah has said in the Holy Quran, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَا وَيُرْبِي الصَّدَقَاتِ. So all this, it means that Islam and Islamic finance promotes legitimate earning, ethical and legitimate earnings or creation of wealth, and also its distribution. We then talk of absence of riba, absence of gharar, absence of maisir, maybe ethical. Those transactions must be in ethically approved Sharia, maybe according to the Sharia principles. So all these are there, and then the nature of Islamic finance transactions and contracts are also derived directly from the principles of the Sharia. So you cannot deviate from the A to Z of Islamic finance to say that let us maybe do as the conventional institutions are doing. We are independent, we are unique in our own way, and as defined by the Sharia, and that once we stick to the Sharia, the barakah, the blessings from the Almighty is there. So the instruments of Islamic finance have been identified. The structure of Islamic banking and finance is there. Islamic banking is there. Islamic capital market is there. Islamic insurance is there. And then the other, maybe real estates and all aspects of economic, socio-economic aspects of our endeavors, of our means of livelihood, may be explained by the Sharia in terms of how we use Islamic finance to drive value, to create all opportunities for our people to benefit from. And that is what is open now for the Northern Nigerian and for this Northern Economic Forum to unveil, and for our investors and the private sector, the household, and all of us to benefit from, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Professor Rano. That has been a very wonderful intervention, starting from where we were before and the role of the Sardaunas. And of course, talking about a point which probably others will also need to expand discussions on the issue of, the poverty and unemployment, joblessness, and others that were, and insecurity that were imposed on us, and whether this should also be further discussed, whether in addition to being imposed on us, there is also something that we have not been able to do for ourselves, which prevented, of course, others from having those things imposed on them. He has also talked about, the almighty formula of Islamic finance, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى, that Allah has forbidden riba, but in exchange, as an alternative, he has permitted trade. And he has also discussed the ethical basis of Islamic finance. We welcome Dr. Usman Bugaje, as I said, who founded or initiator of the Arewa Research and Development Project, which is very relevant to our discussion, and would like to know how, of course, is what is in the project, and how, for example, Islamic finance can come in getting this project properly and effectively implemented. Dr. Usman Bugaje, alhamdulillah, is both a scholar and a practitioner. He will not like me to say it, but Mala Adamu, of course, an associate of him, once described him as one-man committee of elders. You are welcome, sir, to this very important discussion. We will go to Dr. Abdullateef Bello. Doctor, you have gone around over 40 countries in the world discussing issues of, development from the Islamic development point of view, from the Islamic finance point of view. You have seen what others have done. You are from Nigeria, you are from Arewa. You know what is in Arewa, and you know what others have done to actually get out of where probably Arewa is now. We would like to hear from you.
Moderator, first and foremost, let me start with a disclaimer. Whatever I'll be saying here is from me, not from any organization I've associated myself with, or I'm a board member right now. So please, I speak frankly, and I will tell you what I know from experience so far. In 2005, in Africa here, there's a magazine called New Africa. And that magazine characterized Africa with 6 acronyms. P for poverty, I for illiteracy, D for diseases, I for insecurity, another I for instability, and C for corruption. These are 5 acronyms used by New Africa magazine. It was a cover page. Imagine 2005, we're now 2034, almost 10 years or more. We still have these challenges all over the corners and crannies of Africa. And I'm shocked when we have to come to Arewa. I mean, today, I've been to many countries. I've been to Bangladesh, where you have poverty higher than Nigeria. And I've been to the office of the president, of the prime minister. He gave us card to go around. I nearly lost my life that time because we are doing case study of how poverty can be reduced. You cannot eliminate poverty anywhere. And that's why World Bank will continue to remain as World Bank, because if you look at their motto, they said a world free of poverty. Can you have a world free of poverty? As long as you cannot have free of poverty, that means World Bank will remain forever. So that's the secret I want you to know. This poverty is endemic everywhere you go. And I'm shocked that we don't have today political will to address these challenges. By now, we should bring all intellectuals in the Arewa to develop what they call Arewa Vision 2050. The challenge is so huge that we cannot leave it in the hands of individual governors or a commission. You know, we've been told we have this Northwest Commission that is a way of to divide us as much as we think we are happy. Last week again, there's another commission that came on board. They call Al-Majiri an out-of-school commission. I mean, we keep on having all these commissions, but no one is coordinating all these commissions at higher level. And as long as we keep on having this, what I expect from Arewa is, look, let's sit back and say, you know, where I work, we do what they call diagnostic study. You know, unless you go to the root of all these challenges. I heard one of the speakers saying, we have this imposed insecurity in the country. I mean, if you go back, this insecurity didn't come out of the blue. There must be genesis. Let's do a diagnostic study. What led to this insecurity? What are the challenges? Why are we here where we are? And where are we heading to? I mean, we need a vision. You know, when I work in IDB, we thought we should have a vision 2020. And that time, 2020 was equivalent to vision 1440. And we travel around to countries, regional conferences to see, to tap from the stakeholders what they think the bank should be in terms of repositioning. And today, too, if we have to transfer that knowledge to Arewa, I think we need to have, you know, let me tell you a story. One governor, I don't want to mention his name, came to my office in Jeddah. And then he said, well, he came for Umrah, but he really wanted to touch base with me. And I asked him a simple question. Your Excellency, what is going to be your legacy when you finish in next year? If you leave the governor position next year, what's going to be your legacy? What is it that someone will remember you for? He said, well, nobody has asked him that question. I said, okay, I'm here to give you some hint and also give you strategy. And when he finished the discussion, he said, look, he thought he came for Umrah, but what he gained from this discussion, he's so happy with it. He told me, when are you coming to Nigeria so that I can send a plane to pick you, address my cabinet, and so on and so forth. You see, we have people with intellect. We have people who have knowledge. We have people who have experience. We have people who have exposure. And I keep on telling people in life, there are 3 E's. You can have education, you can have experience, but you need exposure. And when I say exposure, if my father is a farmer and I keep on going to farm with him, all he has is just hoe and cutlasses. You know, that means I've not got the exposure. But the day I go to another farm, I see them doing mechanization. What will I do? I will not adapt. So you need someone who has exposure to transfer knowledge to Arewa. And if you recall one time in the economy of Nigeria, was it Obasanjo era here and there? He brought experts from all over the world to say, let's address this, our economy. I remember Dr. Mukhtar from Kano here was one of those invited from World Bank. And you see, it gets to a point where we have to sit down and say, look, we need external solution to our problem if our internal thinking is not working. So to me, Arewa, we need political will to change the status quo. We cannot continue this way. And I'm happy that we have a large Muslim population. And today, let me even give it a rough estimate. If we say Muslim population is 60% out of 210 population of Nigeria, we're talking about 130 million population. Go to all these Islamic banks, all Islamic finance, put together Islamic bank, Takaful, Islamic Musharakah Fund here and there, and see the number of people who are really participating in all this. At that, whether we get 10% of the 130 million. Very pitiful. And we're all Muslim. You look, when Allah says, enter into Islam wholeheartedly. Islamic finance is your baby. You don't have alternative. And it says somewhere, وَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنٌ وَمَؤْمِنٌ مُؤْمِنًا إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ أَمْرًا إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا. He said, it is not possible. It is not befitting for a mu'min, for a believer, both men and women, that when Allah and His Rasul has given command for them to have option, And that option is, you don't have it. When you enter into Islam wholeheartedly, everything about Islam is what you have to comply with. So I'm always very shocked to see that the rate of people who are subscribing to Islamic finance system is so low. Could it be because lack of awareness? Or we ourselves were not convinced? Because you see, when you see an Islamic bank, I'm sorry to say, those people who are working in Islamic bank, they all come from conventional banks. So the challenge you are facing is that mentality of how to find shortcuts in Islamic bank here and there is still prevalent in Islamic bank. I'm sorry to say it bluntly, because the workers, nobody is groomed from the scratch to say, well, we brought you up as an Islamic finance expert. The fear of Allah is in you. You grow up the taqwa, the tawhid, everything there. The mamalat I'm doing here, I'm doing fisabilillah because in Yom al-Qiyamah, I work in an environment here, I'm here to contribute two ways. When we work in Islamic development, they tell us, you are coming here for two things. One, to serve the Ummah. And second, to earn halal income. Okay, these are the two things we all work in Islamic development bank. But when you think back again, sometimes we keep on saying we need Islamic bank, we need people to work there. Yes, it's there to need, but you still need people with experience to come. Yes. So there's a big dilemma here. Yes, you don't want people to be in conventional bank, but you need people, workforce, to help you. I recall when they set up Islamic Development Bank, people keep on telling us when we grow up there that, well, we made a mistake. We could have brought people from World Bank to set the foundation for us so that, it was trial and error during the time that Muhammad Ali was there. We didn't have anything to look forward to. We didn't have Islam development somewhere to say, let's copy. We set the template from the scratch.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this very insightful intervention. We'll come back to you also for further, analysis, inshallah, also of some issues. I think it's now time we move to also Dr. Usman Bugaje, the man whom we know has a vision for Arewa, and would like to know that vision and how that vision is documented in especially the stand project, the stand document, strategic agenda for northern development, and how, Islamic finance can come in, especially in that regard, to see the actualization of dreams like this that have to do with long-term development of Arewa in various areas, crucial areas that are strategic for development.
The ground rules, how long we should speak, and so maybe I need to be guided. 4 to 5 minutes. Okay. There is so much to be said and there is so little time to do so. I don't think I would like to speak about stand because it's a document, it's already in the public domain, and it's something designed in the year 2012, basically 12 years from now, and there is a lot that, I think what we need to do is to essentially change the way we think. Yes, Islamic finance has developed over the last 30, 40 years. It has surmounted a number of challenges, but it has still a number of challenges to surmount. So I would rather start with the context. What are the numbers? What are the challenges? What is it that we are confronting? Because the mind of a Muslim is supposed to appreciate the future constantly. This is what we have lost, and that's where the world has left us behind. When Allah says, أَفَمَنْ يَمْشُوا مُكِبًّا عَلَى وَجْهِ أَهْدَى أَمَّنْ يَمْشِي سَوِيًّا عَلَى صِرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ قُلْ هُوَ الَّذِي أَنشَأَكُمْ وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ قَلِيلًا مَا تَشْكُرُونَ. Allah is making reference to the fact that He has given us the ears to listen, the sight to see, and the brain to think. And so we can't be the same with others who are not thinking, who are not contemplating. So this is what we have missed. And when you speak about Islamic finance, most people still think only in terms of halal and haram. We don't, think in terms of its sustainability, in terms of its conflict resolution, because a lot of the conflict around the world, in fact, any conflict you look at, including the one in Gaza and Lebanon, in Sudan, in anywhere in the world, it has to do with exclusion. It can be economic exclusion, it can be political exclusion, it can be any other form of exclusion, but exclusion has been the source of major conflicts around the world. And therefore, it's, one of the things that Islamic finance does is to resolve this exclusion. And then it creates sustainability because it curtails the human greed. This is something which the world economic system has not been able to do. And this is why it keeps collapsing after every 10, 20 years. You run into one problem. I mean, the 2008 perhaps was one of the major financial crises. So I want us to understand first the context and the numbers. And what are the numbers are we looking for at the moment? Let's focus on Nigeria. We have at the moment about 250 million in terms of population. We are looking at the next 5 years, we're expected by United Nations projection to be 300 million. Another 20 years in 2050, we're expected to be well over 400 million, and that will make us the third largest country in the world after India and China in terms of population. Now, what we should be thinking about now and what our politicians should really be focusing is how do you feed this population? How do you house them? How do you educate them? How do you provide health care? How do you provide jobs? These are the numbers we should be looking at. And how can Islamic finance therefore address these issues? So it's not just halal and haram. We have a problem to solve, and Islamic finance has that capacity to do so. But we need to understand the problem itself, and we need to start calibrating what we do, towards addressing those kind of problems. In doing so, we have to be constantly aware of the challenges. For example, last year, the grain deficit for Nigeria was 30 million metric tons. In other words, we need 30 million metric tons from outside to be able to feed the population that we have. Now, I have not seen any preparation by any government, whether federal or state, that is working towards increasing, the food that we have. Our yield per hectare in Nigeria is one of the lowest in Africa. Take tomato, for example. We had a tomato crisis at the beginning of this year, didn't we? I mean, many of you remember the problem of tomato, right? We produce between 5 to 6 metric tons per hectare in Nigeria. The African average is 20 metric tons per hectare. Cuba, which is a small Caribbean island, is doing 120 metric tons per hectare. So even if we talk about agriculture, we're not talking about routine agriculture. We have to look at the agriculture that can solve our problems. The land that we have, we can, multiply our yields to maybe 10 times what it is at the moment. The technology is available. We don't have to invent it. In fact, this technology of tomato production has been offered to Nigeria by Cuba through FARA, which is Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa, which is based in Accra, Ghana, for nearly how many years now? And they have not taken the offer, free of charge. So is the attitude that is really important when we speak about Islamic finance. Maybe I should stop there. Maybe in the second round I can build on what I have said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for this very, very insightful, intervention, especially the need, for having the futuristic mindset in this regard, and especially emphasis on how exclusion leads to conflict. And that reminds me of the statement by Aristotle that, you know, poverty is the parent of revolution and crime. So if when there is that, and of course, Quranically speaking, we have seen how Quran consistently how the Quran has consistently, you know, tries to direct us to the probable connection between, you know, poverty and conflict. You know, الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. The Quran mentions them always together. Ju' and khawf. When there is hunger, then there can be security. You know, ضرب الله مثلا قرية كانت آمنة مطمئنة, and it says فأذاقها الله لباس الجوع والخوف. So they usually go al-ju' al-khawf. So the Quran probably is drawing attention to this fact. We now come back to Professor Rano. Prof, in the discussions, a lot of reference has been made to what we can do in Arewa and what Islamic finance can do. Especially interested in what Dr. Usman Bugaje has drawn attention to, the issue of agriculture. You know, and you know, agriculture is the basis of our economy in the north. And he talks about the technology. There is the issue of infrastructure. What do you think, now that we're talking about, you know, Islamic finance and growth, what do you think are the key areas where we need to focus on in terms of using Islamic finance to address? And of course, we have a number of Islamic financial institutions, especially Islamic banks now, and some other, you know, financial institutions.
Thank you, moderator. A lot can be done, really. Having identified the challenges of poverty and of unemployment and of having the vast and the best arable land in the country, Islamic finance can really come in, solving the issue of problem of availability, food security will address poverty, like I've said. And Islamic finance has a number of arrangements for that. When we take stock of who are for, this classification of those that are below the poverty line, those that are extremely poor, those that are extremely poor, those that are marginally above the poverty line, and those that are in the low income category are the exposed categories. And in Islamic finance, Islamic economics, we have a number of provisions for them. The redistribution instruments of Islamic finance, of Zakah, of Waqf, and of other endowments, and of even the share that have been prescribed in the Holy Quran, and of other وَكَفَّارَتُهُ إِطْعَامُ عَشَرَةِ مِسْكِينَ وَكَفَّارَتُهُ, and so many instances where the kaffara is for feeding the poor, clothing them, and so on. So the category of those that are below the poverty line and those that are marginally above the poverty line can be clearly addressed by the issue of redistributed instruments of Islamic finance. And for those that are low income, we have the options for Islamic finance that are market-based in terms of Musharakah, Mudaraba, and so on. We are really talking not beyond just the conceptual applications of Islamic finance. But we've had researches that have been documented that where Islamic finance have really made impact in agriculture. We largely talk of Salam arrangements, Salam financing, a forward contract that is approved in Islamic Sharia, that the farmers can be granted an advance payment for an agreed amount of agricultural output that can be delivered at the point of execution of the contract or at the end of the contract. But that beyond that, I have seen, and I believe our brother here will corroborate and confirm the information, that Islamic Development Bank has a lot to offer in terms of massive agricultural development, irrigation, farming. We have seen a lot of interventions. There are a lot of resources that are there from the Islamic Development Bank. In fact, in one of our visits to the institution, we are told that some state in the southeastern, one state in southeast And one of our former head of state was there, and they enjoyed facility. I'm aware of an arrangement where in Kano State, for example, there was an arrangement in the former administration that made attempt to tap from these resources. But that political will is something that is keeping them back. An arrangement where the funds are coming, you don't have, it's exclusive, you don't have that privilege or that power of an executive to decide how it should be allocated or how it should be shifted from one project to another. Is what is keeping them sometimes back in terms of enjoying and in terms of benefiting from these instruments or these opportunities. We have seen several cases of this. There are several of these instances that have been documented. And so Islamic finance really has a lot of maybe provisions for maybe resuscitating or revibrating or rejuvenating the agricultural sector for the North. And it's left for the private sector, the government, and other institutions to really take up and benefit from these opportunities.
So you have talked about Islamic development,
But
I believe there are a number of Islamic financial institutions here present, with us. And you have been the director of the Pioneer West African Institute, specifically for Islamic banking and finance. We'll be interested in knowing from your experience, and what do you think this Islamic financial is, before we go to the Islamic Development Bank, what do you think they are doing now, and in relation to what they are supposed to be doing for us? And
this juncture is not a political party that one would say I'm not aligned to this or aligned to that, but yeah. I'm proud to say that Jaiz Bank in particular, and from the research that we undertook or we carried out, we won a research from the Tate Fund, and we conducted an impact analysis of Islamic finance, financial inclusion, and livelihood strategy in northwest Nigeria. And when our research assistant went to the field, we were quite impressed by the magnitude of impact of Islamic Jaiz Bank intervention, for example, in particular in Katsina State and in Jigawa State.
Okay.
Well, in Kano State as well, for supporting farmers and young entrepreneurs that directly are engaged in agricultural activities. In fact, much more than we see in conventional, even microfinance institutions. That disconnect between this feeling that all households, all four are entrepreneurs, is not there in Islamic finance, because Islamic finance, unless when you are a farmer, or unless when you are an entrepreneur, or unless you have something to offer into a joint contract, mutually beneficial contract, you don't just go to the bank to say, well, if you go to the bank to say, I need financing, they will say, obviously, for what?
Yes. So,
but we have seen where farmers and even married or maybe women have benefited from food processing, oil making, groundnut oil milling, and irrigation farming in different aspects of maybe agricultural activity that are off-season, rainy season farming activities. And our research assistant for Kebbi State, for example, there was this intervention around that time by previous admission by the federal government, and the farmer uncle borrowers, something. So they were comparing how good they found Islamic finance arrangement in terms of how it has really helped them. When you enforce maybe under the uncle borrower, the farmers, the seeds, the implements, everything, without giving them the leverage to decide on what they want to do, yes, given the size of land, given the advice by the experts, irrigation extension workers, and so on. So you constrain them under the so-called or the government-approved project, then the funding they received under the Islamic Bank, under the Jaiz Bank, and other institutions that operate. So really, it was really down to earth, really an empirical and a practical solution to what we have seen, or from what we have seen, what we have gathered in terms of what our research assistants have. And the results also, the empirical results have even also confirmed that. I think we have more to discuss on that.
Thank you very much, sir. We're conscious of the time, even though we still enjoy a lot of the points you're making. I mean, all the points you are making. We have seen what they are doing in terms of supporting small, medium, micro, small, and medium enterprises from what Prof. Rano has said. We're also interested in, interventions that have, macro or rather large impact, large scale impact in terms of infrastructure, in terms of, as especially alluded to by Dr. Usman Bugaje. And we have IDB, experienced personality here. Sir, in this aspect of infrastructural development that have direct bearing on growth and development, widening agriculture as our own area of comparative advantage, what have other parts of the world, other IDB member countries benefited from in that regard? And how can Arewa in particular? And I think we would like specific models, especially given that we don't have much time now.
Thank you for this question. If you recall, some years back, there was a war in Syria. And then after that, we had this Arab Spring.
Yeah.
So Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE depends on Syria, Egypt for their foods. And then suddenly the war broke out. They could not get this constant food item coming to the country. So what they did was they were looking all over the world for what they call land grabbing. The World Bank and UN call it land grabbing. Saudi Arabia went to Ethiopia, went to Ukraine, went to Czechoslovakia. They leased a huge hectares of land, plant different crops, and then they hire people, international people, to man the farm for them, and then they hire local people to create jobs. When they affect these items, they give some to locals and then ship everything back to their country. The World Bank and IMF call it land grabbing because they go to countries. If you take the case of Ethiopia, at one time there was a famine in the country, and because they signed an agreement with the government, they must take the food out. So there's a dilemma here. Do you serve the local force or you allow international people to exploit? So now, at that moment, Saudi was looking for land all over the places. They could have come to Nigeria. It's a good opportunity. IDB will have given them the sea. It's like Mudaraba. These people have the resources. They were looking for where entrepreneurs, someone will do the work for them and take something there. I think we miss on because of the insecurity problem in the country. Nobody will come and pump money in the place where you have insecurity. Everybody wants to make sure there's a return for anything they put on the table. So in IDB also we have what they call reverse linkage program. Maybe many of you are not aware of it. It's to identify best practice anywhere in the world. IDB will be a catalyst to finance the knowledge transfer. We did that for Ministry of Agriculture. When I was there, they sent about 150 Nigerian experts to Bangladesh. And, the Ministry of Agriculture identified best practice in Bangladesh in irrigation system. So IDB financed 150 of them to Bangladesh, the land, and came back. But we don't know what happened, whether they use the knowledge or not. That's a different story. So with this reverse linkage, I mean, Arewa could really benefit, because I recall when Marhum, late Yaradua, was in Saudi Arabia, I think, with the president of IDB, he asked me to follow him to go and greet him. And he was emphatic that, look, I need help in Arewa region here and then. He wants IDB. And he sent 5 delegations, the chief economic advisor to Tanmunos. He was there that time. He led the delegation here and there. And I was in the meeting throughout. What happened, everything, I don't know what, when the moment his ancestor died, we didn't hear anything about it again. Now, really, to me, we need leaders who have passion for the region. We need leaders who have political will to really solve our problems. We can keep on talking, until we all agree where we're heading to. We need a vision 2050. I keep on saying it here. If we don't have the roadmap, we'll just be running at here, bit of this question, challenges here and there. We need to bring, we talk about Sadana, we keep on reminding, we cover it because they were leaders. They had foresight, they had vision. And then we really need someone also to come and take over from their legacies and change the status quo. It's not good for us. the insecurity. Since I've been here 6 years in Nigeria, I cannot come by road from Abuja to Kaduna because of fear of insecurity. How long do we want to continue? We don't want to pass this on to the young generation and so on. So if we really want agriculture to what you call revive agriculture sector, Kano used to be a basket ground for granite. I mean, when I was young, I used to see pyramid here and there. I came in, I cannot see anything. It used to be textile, what you call hub. Everything now is coming from China. We need to go back and see a diagnostic study. Let's have a deep dive. What went wrong? Why are we where we are today? How do we solve the problem? And that can only be done when you have a vision going forward.
Thank you very much. Vision. And he has talked about land grabbing and he has talked about reverse linkage. But one point he has also emphasized is political will and so on and so forth. And I'm sure Dr. Usman Bugaje, in addition to probably one other thing he would like to say, would like also to know this issue of, the private and the public and how we can work together to, especially with the political will. And that will be, of course, the last opportunity to talk before we give a chance for a question or two from the audience, and then give one minute for your final messages, inshallah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think until we fix our politics, I think it's better we forget about government, whether it's state government or federal government. It's all scam. There is nothing. So let's forget about it. If we really want to take care of part of the country, it has to be private sector led.
Excellent.
We can manage the government regulatory institutions, but it has to be a private sector led. I have had a practical experience in dealing with state governors, in dealing with the federal government itself. If I tell you the stories which there is no time for, you will shed tears. We had opportunities that we can, in the last 10 years, we could have transformed our society. But the real culprit is the government itself. I mean, people in government are not looking for any transformation. They are just looking for what to put in their pockets at the highest level. So it's not like you are looking at,
Thank
so
you, sir.
my contribution would be at this stage, this vision is actually available. It may be fragmented, but we can, pull it together and come up with a vision that is based on the realities and that has not only just a vision, you have to translate it or break it down into goals, strategies, and we have to develop metrics to be able to measure, because you can't achieve what you cannot measure. So, but all these techniques, are available, and we can fix them. I think I keep talking about the change of mindset. That is what we require to transform our society. And I just want to share very quick ideas of the kind of things we should be thinking of. Yes, agriculture is key and is the bedrock of whatever you're going to do, because for you to even have a hold on your territory, to be a country, you have to be food secure. Otherwise, you become so vulnerable that you really cannot, claim to. But what I want us to be thinking is, when we design our programs or investments, they should also help us address some of the problems we are facing. For example, at the moment, we have a dwindling parental authority, which is creating a breakdown of our social system. And a father, because of the poverty, cannot control the movement of his own daughter, or even his own children, boys. And they may go out, commit crimes, come back with whatever they are able to, and that becomes the only source of the family to feed. But what we can do, and it has been done in Egypt, I've seen the program, you do an investment to strengthen that parental authority. So you take a family as a unit, you connect it to a mosque, and you give them a certain amount If the children need certain skills, you train them, and then the family becomes a business with the father in charge. And so that business will be able to supply the basic needs of that family. And that therefore strengthens parental authority. And then it makes, the society much stronger. And children will be more behaved. And the needs of society will be catered for. So these are the kind of new things that we should be thinking. A more serious one is that this part of the country is being drawn into what is called a war economy. If you look at the Sahel, the whole Sahel is running on a war economy. Nothing that thrives except around conflict. Gradually, this is coming. At the moment, most of our rural areas have been completely impoverished. People have lost their farms, they have lost their savings. There is nothing for them to look forward to. And therefore, they have become what a writer said, the most dangerous people in any society. Somebody who has nothing more to lose. He has lost everything. He has nothing more to lose is the most dangerous person in any society. So our investment should consider rehabilitating people who have nothing, completely impoverished. And it's in line with the tenets of Islam and the project of Islam to rehabilitate these people so that we can exit from the current war economy. If we don't, we are going to be consumed by this war economy and will not be able to really stand up as a nation. There are thoughts and ideas that people are looking at, and this is the last point I'm going to make, of the possibility of the northern Nigeria becoming a separate country by itself. This, remote as it may appear, is a possibility. Yeah. Now, do we wait until it happens and then we start scratching our head and trying to look for food to eat? So the most sensible thing is for us to start a project that will make us completely independent. And how do we do that? Food is the most important thing. When I came in, I think Professor was talking about fixing value chains, yes, if I heard him correctly. If you just take the livestock value chain, just the livestock value chain, if we stop taking live cows to Lagos or Port Harcourt or anywhere, if Lagos wants meat, we package meat and we send meat to them.
Yes.
Refrigerated. The amount of jobs you will create, the amount of money you will save is enormous. It's enough to keep nearly half the young population, because the new meat factories, which you can assemble in a number of positions, will generate not only just jobs, they will generate 5 other factories, because the skin creates a whole factory with a whole line of events. The horns, the hoof, the blood. There is nothing in the cow that you throw away. Everything you have is useful. And it's an industry, it's a line. So these are the kind of things we should be thinking. By the way, we tried this about 7-8 years ago here in Kano. Everybody was ready. The investors were ready. They came here. They spent a whole week. They went to places. They established the supply of the cattle and did all the arrangements. The only thing that stopped us from having this was because the governor then wanted money from them, and they said they were not prepared to do so.
Subhanallah. Jazakumullah khairan for this interesting interventions. This is really wonderful. There is a lot to say, I'm sure, and there is a lot to hear from this panel. Dr. Usman Bugaje, Dr. Abdullateef Bello, and Professor Rano, but we don't have enough time to continue. Alhamdulillah, but I think we have got a lot of ideas we can use, and those from the Islamic finance, financial institutions are here, and I think we have got a lot of ideas where we can see, okay, where should our priorities be in the future so that we will actually make the required impact. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you for 1 minute each, for your final message. But I think my attention is drawn to the fact that probably 1 or 2 persons would like to ask a question or two. Number one, And the one with, so I can see someone wanting to raise her hand and she's not confident. Number 2. And then, okay, you are number 3. I think we will just give chance for 3 people for now because of the challenge of time. And my name is, I am from, my question is, wassalamu alaikum. Straight to the point.
Well, there was a lady raising her hand. And I think
so she's, the lady is number 2.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Appreciating, I think, Lydia and all those who have played a vital role in getting this happen.
Thank you.
I won't flow from the point made by our elder brother. He doesn't like being called a professor, Professor Usman Bugaje, and all the others, but really on the issue of the way forward. And I want to add, for it to materialize, we need to educate, sensitize the public. Poverty has eaten too deep into our profile, and also there are so many drug addicts to the extent that today, as you have mentioned in part of your address, most people don't know themselves, don't know what they are in, and don't know what the future is. We are now moving portents for them. And there is therefore need to have an aggressive campaign to wake the public up, to appreciate the point he made. If you take the family and give them capital, if they are not sensitized, they may eat chicken and the money will finish. So I want to suggest that to make it materialize, we have to sensitize the public and resort to what we call crowdfunding to encourage people in Ungwa to bring a naira or 5 naira or whatever. This sensitization is key and fundamental.
Thank you very much. Sensitization, massive awareness, mindset change, paradigm shift in both the people, the masses, and also those in the financial sector on what kind of interventions they should go for. Thank you very much. Number 2, and he has represented you in thanking the organizers, and so you can go straight to the point. Yeah.
I am Halima Ali Ibrahim, a PhD student in Islamic banking and finance abuse area. So my question actually is pertaining to the pricing of Islamic products, which I think is the major problem why most of the Muslims are running away from Islamic product. It's as if we feel that Islamic product is being priced as that of the conventional product, which is the major concern, if I should say, that most people are thinking that, okay, why should we pay the same rate, the same price as that of the conventional bank? Thank you.
Maybe you're talking about benchmarking with Islamic, thank you very much. Number 3, I'm sure the scholars here will respond. Number 3. So another lady. Okay, no problem, go ahead. I can give you 30 seconds.
My name is Hawa Usman. I am from Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. My question goes to Professor Usman Bugaje. I want to know, what role does integrity in the true sense of it, good faith, and transparency in the conduct of individuals and also organizations, which include government, play in the development of the Islamic economic sector? Thank you.
Straightforward question. Thank you very much. Then number 3, she is number 2 and 2B. So you are number 3. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I am Ridwan Al-Adibisi from Smart Agriboss. Thanks to our speakers, Jazakumullah khairan. I would like to say concerning financial inclusion and Islamic finance, in reality, many of our smallholder farmers that are responsible for producing about 90% of the food we are eating in the country are actually not having access to these facilities from the bank. Because I could remember in the earlier part of the year when I went to some of our Islamic banks, so trying to source for finances for our smallholder farmers, unfortunately we were told that they cannot give smallholder farmers finances. So I would like us to really seen to this? Jazakallah khair.
Despite despite Salam, Musharakah, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think these are the people who have given the opportunity for questions. We'll still have time in other, sessions, inshallah. Now, a question. So there is the issue of awareness. There is the issue of Islamic products and benchmarking, and the issue of role of integrity. Some of the questions are directly centered to specific persons. Directed to specific personalities. Agric financing probably is the one that I would like the Professor Rano to respond to, and the issue of and benchmarking probably.
On benchmarking, people should not go with the assumption that Islamic banks are charity organizations. They are also intermediaries between the excess units and the deficit units. And they do the intermediation to give returns to the investors and also to keep the financial institutions stable, and also to promote Islamic aspect of financial intermediation. Just yesterday or so, the central bank raised the MPR by 25 basis points, and that takes us to 27.5% interest rate, or MPR, which is the basis for other institutions to set their rates. What we subsidize is I just checked the Federal Reserve rates, which is 6%, about 5.something%. We still are made to, or our countries, developing countries, are made to still invest in US Treasury bills, in European Treasury bills, European markets. We are subsidizing their problems, we are subsidizing their deficits, war, and so on, while we are constraining our industries. Who can invest, except if you invest in politics perhaps, and you happen to win the election. But who can invest really? The policy committee, the monetary policy committee, has been from different angles, calling on them to consider slowing down the rate, but persistently, consistently, they have been. We don't know, even the World Bank, the IMF have been, are now turning their back against the consistent hike in the MPR. You are killing the real sector. You are killing once you kill the real sector, you are setting a role, opening up for so many problems to come.
You've killed the real life.
You've killed the real life. So because of that, Islamic banks are part of the system. They are not receiving any grant to continue to give, when we say interest-free loans or interest absence of riba. But yet there are other arrangements, the Mudaraba rates, the Musharakah.
And that brings us to the issue of people going for agricultural financing.
Agricultural financing as well. The Salam arrangements, banks have to, can give. And also private sector, it can also as well. We have that arrangements to keep the social, economic security and stability. We have the Mudaraba arrangement also for
when they go to the banks. I think the point is they tell them you don't have collateral, maybe, but there is high risks and so on.
No,
so how can Islamic financial?
There is no need for collateral. I don't know, but for Salam financing, as far as I know, and the bank can enter into parallel Salam, where if the produce are available, they can also make an arrangement to sell in the future market the agricultural output that
let us go to
that way. At least Salam is the best form of arrangement for financing, and I don't know whether it depends on.
I think Dr. Bello can add to that, inshallah. Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah.
What I notice is most Islamic banks, they don't have markup policy, and the regulators, maybe because they are new in the area, nobody's putting pressure. It's like if you're a Muslim, you have to pray. The Qibla is, you have to. If you're operating in Islamic finance and Islamic bank, you need a markup policy. And the markup policy must be transparent. In Islamic Development Bank, we have a markup policy. If you give a loan or any activities to a country, the country has the right to ask the question, how do you arrive at this markup? Islamic Bank is about transparency. You cannot have two customers operating in the same sector. You give markup 28%, another one 20%. That's cheating. So when you have this markup policy, it's so important to promote transparency. So the pricing is there, is documented. Every 3 months in the Islamic Development Bank, every 3 months or 6 months, we update the markup policy, reflecting on what is going around us, but you must have a markup policy. The second one is about this funding. You're talking about SMEs. Many of this Islamic bank, they're not very comfortable because SMEs involves a lot of headache, looking for money to collect money here and there. Let me share some thoughts about how to do it best. When you had this Grameen Bank, Muhammad Yunus, he was given an award, Nobel Prize, and this was brought to the attention of our board. I was there that day, and the board says, look, why can't we replicate what the Grameen Bank did in our member countries in an Islamic way? So I was given the task to write the report. The title was Replicability of Grameen Bank in ID member country. The lessons I want you to draw is, there's nothing wrong from you tapping from best practice from somewhere, even though, don't let us be too rigid. IDB finance with the World Bank. There's what they call co-financing. You understand me? The fact that they are climbing, they have interest rate. Let me tell you how this thing works. Okay, let me start with this Grameen Bank experience. It's a group peer-to-peer, what they call it, pressure. It's a group pressure that makes everybody
collateral.
Yeah. 5 people comes together and they say we want to go to loan. If one person is not, everybody will suffer. So there's a pressure among all these 5 people to ensure that everybody pays. That's why Grameen Bank ensures that they have 99% repayment rate. Why can't we take this good pressure, bring it to Islamic microfinance? That's what they call the conclusion of the paper. There's a good thing there. Remove all this headache you are going through, and let's address this issue once and for all.
Perhaps we expand this discussion when in the session on Islamic social finance, because microfinance is more or less also connected to that, inshallah. Thank you very much. And we now move to Dr. Usman Bugaje. You have a question specifically the role of integrity, ethics, and and transparency that it can play in Islamic finance and so on.
Question appears to me to be rhetorical.
Okay.
It's obvious.
Okay.
What I mean is that without integrity, you cannot even think of it. Even non-Islamic finance requires integrity. What more of Islamic finance? But perhaps what she wants to raise is the fact that here we are trying to do Islamic finance, but there are questions of integrity, maybe in corporate governance, because there are a lot of complaints, and the kind that he just mentioned, as the Islamic Development Bank, is solving its own problem by sticking to the rules strictly. In other places, these rules are not probably. But I also want, spare me a minute to raise an issue. The issue of integrity is key not only in banking, but is key to the existence of the Muslim community. Without it, you cannot really run a lot of the Islamic institutions. It's one thread that runs through the Islamic, community, every segment of it, every gamut of it. And it's important we reflect on this because it has a nexus with the issue of the mindset that we need to change. Maybe the fastest way I can say so is 50 years ago, and if there are people, if you are too young, ask people who are in their 70s, they will tell you you can take, not that you can take, you have, it used to be the scene, and we have seen it a lot. You can take raw cash from the house of Dantata, come through Offer Mazugal, pass through that cemetery. And those days there was nothing in that cemetery, absolute silence. You come through Fagi, You go up to, Gidan Goldie. There is no policeman escorting that money. There is nobody that, will take that money. Everything. And this is raw cash. If people who deliver taxes, you put money, just like you put, a sack of potatoes, for example. You just throw it into the car. Nobody will pick it. You leave it in the market. At the end of the day, if nobody picks it, somebody will pick it and keep it. Nothing happens. In those days, the mosques were very few. The sermons were very few. There weren't this hijab. There wasn't this turban. Even the beards were limited. Now we have a lot of this, hijab and turbans and, beards and lots of sermons. But you look for the Islam, you can't find it. Now, this is something that we really need to address.
Thank you very much.
We have spent a lot of time on this, and the conclusion we arrive is that, we have left the issue of tarbiyah and we have taken the issue of aqidah. So people now call themselves ahali this, ahali that, ahali this, ahali that, and they've forgotten about the real jewel, the real thing, which is tarbiyah. So we have to come back to makarim al-akhlaq. This is what we need to rebuild again. And that's when we can really recover our identity. At the moment, the Muslim who, connives with the non-Muslim, they do all manners of atrocities. And you'll be the first to build a mosque and take people to Umrah, and this is what we have seen, So really, Islamic finance and Islamic institutions can only grow within an environment that has a socio-cultural setting that, supports it. So we really have to come back to that issue of the social setting. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khair. In terms of this, I think we consider that as your last word, sir. And I don't know whether the other two also have just a 30-second message. Of course, Dr. Bugaje has reminded us of, Wazi'ul Quran, Wazi'ul Sultan, and Wazi'ul Amr bil Ma'ruf. That we need, the tarbiyah, that is Wazi'ul Tarbiyah, Al-Quran. Inna Allah yaza'u bil Quran, bil Sultan, ma la yaza'u bil Quran. But we also need that Quran, and that people should be living, Quran. Jazakallahu khairan. Sir, in 30 seconds, because we are running out of time.
I was trying to play for chance to give an information. The issue that was raised by Doctor on this cross guarantee. Yes, we are aware that Jais Bank, let's not feel like I'm making promotion for Jais Bank, as this cross guarantee from the research we undertook, which despite the challenges of opening up branches in rural areas, there are now digital maybe tools that you can use to extend finances and also still came in or bring in through financial inclusion this aspect of our society that had been maybe excluded previously from access to finance. Yes, we have other issues, perhaps regional integration through Islamic finance that we have not talked about, but I believe it's maybe a discussion for other things that Islamic finance could help to maybe serve as catalyst for.
Also talked about human development. So there are many other important areas.
Thank you. Open for others. Thank you.
Yeah, I will start an hadith of the Prophet. I'll use that to conclude my statement. He said the ship was made up of 2 decks. Before people enter the deck, they throw a lot to decide who is going to be up, down. Those up, the elite of the society, and those down there, people who find themselves struggling. So those on the lower deck, according to the Prophet, they have to go up every time to seek for food, water, everything. And those up there felt that they are disturbing them. So they prevented them from coming. So these people have to survive. What they did is, one of them took axe. And they started axing the sheep so that he can take water to survive.
Directly.
When the Prophet want to end the story, he said if they cooperated, they would all do what? Survive. If they don't cooperate, everybody will do what? Sink. So we have this challenge of insecurity. If we don't work together to address this, we don't know where it will lead us. Salam alaikum.
Jazakumullahu khairan. I don't know, sir. I think you've said your last words. Jazakumullahu khairan. key points are mindsets, change, very important. The issue of, agriculture, someone emphasizes the issue of awareness and education. We have institutes offering courses. How do we actually, expand and upscale what they are doing to ensure that we have the required, skilled manpower for Islamic finance? And how do we use that? Dr. Bugaje emphasizes the private sector, that look, let's focus on the private sector, and at least even when others are also talking to the government. And also Dr. Bello's vision, Islamic Finance Vision 2050. These are some of the most important points. A lot in Islamic finance for us, and I'm sure in the subsequent discussions we're going to also discuss other important things, including Islamic social finance, which has a session, poverty alleviation and Islamic finance. Thank you very much, and for your information, for those who, because I didn't say much about Dr. Bugaje, he's a pharmacist turned historian, and finally, and then politician, but at the same time, also a development worker. He's a scholar. Sir,
I object to being called a politician. I am in politics.
Okay,
yes,
sir.
But I'm not a politician. Then there's a difference.
Yes. Okay, an ethical politician. Yeah. Okay, and Dr. Bello, thank you very much. We have seen the experience from IDB, a statistician, but turned an international development worker, an expert for that matter, and Professor Rano, my teacher. He taught me microeconomics, he taught me macroeconomics, and he was my director at the International Institute of Banking and Finance, and he directed directly. Jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you very much for this. May Allah reward us all abundantly, and we thank the organizers for this, and the listeners and everybody, including you that have been pointing at ensuring that the mics are working wonderfully. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.